So there's that. Which leads me to the question about how does your relationship change with your family? You know, my kids are like, God, she's so lazy. She doesn't do anything. It's like I call and she's like, still at home, not doing anything. The dog's looking at me like, shall we walk? Or, you know, just gonna sit there. So change of relationship with spouse, with family members.
One of the things about the ability to kind of pre-plan some of your post-retirement or post-last day at work activities is you can tell your spouse, that's the answer, part of the answer to the question of what are you going to do with here? You're not going to be around the house all the time. I don't want you around the house all the time. What are you going to do? You have an answer. And so that was one of the things that, and so my wife helped me kind of plan some of the things for me to do because she knows me. She can say very quickly if I describe it to her, no, you're not going to like that. Or you're just going to get frustrated doing that. Or, you know, how are you going to feel about that? No, that's not you. And so there's a sounding board there who you know knows you.
This is the new you, though.
Right, but you know it's kind of like you see these stripes. They're probably not going to change that much, and so, but that was very helpful to me, and it kind of added another dimension. My wife gave up her career basically to raise our kids because our kids when they were young they were medically challenged, not in a very serious way. They had very, very severe food allergies and stuff like that. So it was a constant battle to feed them and stuff like that. So she took care of the kids then, and so she gave up a lot. And when I retired, my frame of mind was, well, maybe now that she has me back and the kids are out of the house, maybe she can rekindle some of that. But you know, I never really had a proper discussion with her about that because she had moved on, of course. And so it took a little while for us to kind of recalibrate kind of what it is about our lives, both our separate lives, because I wasn't around much, especially if I was in trial or something like that. And she built her own life. And so it was, and while I was aware of it, I wasn't aware maybe as much of the emotional attachment or kind of the psychic reasons why she chose to do certain activities, because I didn't kind of really figure out why it was that one of her hobbies, for instance, is calligraphy. And you know, I go, well, you know, why do you want to do that? But I never gave it the kind of thought that I should have about why it is that appealed to her and everything. So, but now I see her doing calligraphy at home and stuff like that, and so I think it's kind of made our relationship more multi-dimensional than it was before because we're around each other more, we understand each other more, we collide more in both good and bad ways, but it's all not new, but it's reinvigorating in that way. So I can say that it's kind of like I hope most relationships, it continues to change and grow. That's the way it's affected it. It certainly affected me because of the way it affects her. So I mean, it's kind of, it goes around like that.
Terry, family, friends, relationships?
Well, I'm not married, but I do know that I've been able to devote more time to family and to friends, and particularly to friends, because most of my family is in the East Coast or not here. Though I've been called upon to handle some, I'm sure all of you have dealt with this, some ancient uncle's problems with rent control in Chinatown and stuff like that. We have all had that. But I have really, I felt deepened some of my friendships, or in some cases renewed them. You know, it was just like I was watching people here. A lot of you guys hadn't seen each other for decades. You're in law school or a former job, and you're going, "Hey, how are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing?" And so it was nice to see people just renewing that old friendship. So for me, it's been mostly positive. Though I do have some girlfriends who've had stories where their husbands who were used to being partners in big firms and used to bossing around 50 people some associates and secretaries and so forth, they retire and all they have to do is boss around her. And she's had, like Ned's wife, a separate life, and suddenly, oh my God.
Who is this guy?
Bossing you around.
Who made him partner
Yeah, exactly.
in our house?
Yeah, exactly. But I've been fortunate. I think it's been for the positive, everything, this whole 3 years of retirement.
Alan?
All right. So, yeah, I like Ned, can say that the relationship with the spouse can be a challenge. So, my wife, Robin, like Ned's wife, was a work-at-home mom taking care of the kids. They're they're post-college. But I think the relationship, as you're going through life, becomes pretty functional in the sense of, okay, who's taking the kids to such and such or whatever. So now, even when I'm doing my practice, as I mentioned, I work less than, half time. So I'm there at home more. And even when I'm working, a lot of it, I'm just doing it at the house. I'm on the phone or I'm doing email. So, so we're kind of running into each other quite a bit more. And the other part, Robin, she told me I could share this story. Robin volunteered to help me build up and, run my practice. So she's kind of like the office manager, so to speak. And so one of the things that happened early was to set the ground rules and the lines not to cross. And Robin, and I've told this story before, Robin has gone on strike 2 times. and on both occasions, they had to do with how I communicated with her. And she would tell me, I am not a Fenwick & West secretary. You cannot talk to me like that. And I'm thinking, okay, I would say to her, go do this, please.
Like that?
I would tell a Fenwick & West secretary, go do this, please. And they would go do it. What's the problem? Well, she didn't like the tone or my attitude. And so after 2 strikes, I'm learning. I'm still learning. So I communicate with her differently and as a spouse, not as a secretary, according to her. At least I'm getting a little better. So that's the sort of thing I think that you learn. So like I mentioned, we've developed a joint taste for watching Korean dramas. At least it's something that both of us like, and we could spend time doing it together. So that's been good.
Okay. Is life in retirement meeting your expectations?
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I really enjoy what I'm doing now. At some point, next year I'm going to be 65, and I think the luxury of an option of either shutting down the practice or keeping it going as long as I'm mentally competent. I know the state bar is listening to this.
Is interested in
As long
that.
as I'm competent.
That's another panel. Competency.
But I
Yeah.
enjoy the practice, and so I could see keeping it going for.
I'm sure Robin will let you know when your competency drips. Yes. Gary?
Yeah, I think so. I think retirement's a work in progress, but certainly the overwhelming majority of the things I'm doing are really, really fun and are really enjoyable. And in some instances, because I will always look for volunteer work opportunities as long as I can. They've been really rewarding. Particularly in my case, I've had several when I have looked for some volunteer opportunities. I like the human interaction, like working with the clients at Wardrobe for Opportunities, because when you were a litigator, you were always at odds with each other. So it's just nice to be in a volunteer position where you do develop cordial human relationships, and you feel like, doing what I do now, that's instant gratification.
How did you find that Wardrobe organization?
And there's something, by the way, that's similar in San Francisco. I don't know how much, and Orange County and LA. I had a lot of clothes, a lot of work clothes, and I didn't want to get rid of all of them, but I really felt that I should donate them somewhere. So I think I either looked on the web or something like that and found this Wardrobe for Opportunities. I called them and they told me things like, it has to be really in good quality. You have to dry clean it and everything. And so I went to drop it off. They have a monthly drop-off day. And I saw all of these people on the sidewalks trying to gather all of these clothes, which would then be processed because we don't take everything that's given to us. We pass it on to Goodwill. And I thought, geez, this looks like fun. So I simply asked them, do you have volunteer opportunities? And they said yes. So then I called up the volunteer coordinator and I got the job, a job. There are a bunch of us who do this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but it was just, geez, this looks like a fun thing to do.
Uh-huh. And Ned, how did you find your opportunities? I know that Jay say you were involved from a very early
Yeah,
stage.
I knew of the organization early on, but they're always looking for board members, like a lot of nonprofits, and it was kind of serendipity that the timing worked out for me with one of the persons on the board who was going off the board, his wife, my wife, they were friends, got to talking. Ned's about to retire. Oh, great. Then you know how it goes. And all of a sudden, you're just kind of moving along with the current, and there you are. Mm-hmm. But, and it seems obvious to me now, but it wasn't at the time, which is that the nature of my practice did not allow me to have very much of the personal interaction, because I never had any individual clients. I had all entities who were clients and that I litigated for. And of course there are people involved in them with a lot at stake, but it wasn't the kind of delivery of services to individuals that I find the most satisfying now. And what it turned out for me that makes me the most content and happy about what I'm doing now is that I'm helping at a grassroots level, both individually on a one-on-one basis and also helping other people interact with people at a grassroots level. Meals and companionship and stuff like that matters to people, one person at a time. And so when I go to our lunch program and I sit down with the senior, here I am, I'm 72, but there's people who are 98, 99. And so you sit down and you converse with them, and you can see in their eyes and their face, they just want the human interaction. And it was those kinds of feelings and things that I never had really very much of in my practice. And so I should have been looking for it earlier, but I have found it now. And so that makes me in my retirement, I'm very content in it. I'm very satisfied. I don't have any regrets. I don't look back at my career and think of any more what ifs or what if I could have done this or what if I could have done that. And if you're a litigator and you do it enough, you win, you lose. I mean, it happens. And but I'm content with that, and I'm content now with where I am, and I just need to do more, I think is the discovery that I've made. So it energizes me. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, why I think that for me, and at the space that I'm in then and I am now, retirement has been a great thing.
This is a question for any of you. Any missteps or things you should have known before you took the retirement step? Things you should have done to prepare?
In my case, no, but I think I've already shared that because I had a pension, this is a very important part, but I was financially secure if I lived within my means. So
Yeah.
I didn't feel that there were any big missteps. Yeah.
Okay.
I was lucky.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Alan?
I don't know that I would have done anything much, if all, differently. I mean, maybe started a solo practice years earlier, but that's that's neither here nor there. Financially, I think we're in a pretty good place to just, if I want to, just shut down next year and just live on the the savings.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Ned, any missteps or things you wish you had done
No,
better
no.
to prepare?
Not necessarily missteps, but I think I would have worked with Caroline a little bit earlier and with more kind of specificity about kind of what is it going to be like when I'm around, and
Yeah, I guess that's true for me too.
Yeah, yeah, it's just kind of start that discussion earlier when it's theoretical, maybe, and you could put out all the hypotheticals out there, and what if we did this and what if we did that, rather than, well, what are we going to do now? And so, I think that part of the planning would have helped. But I mean, if your relationship is strong enough, obviously you're going to get through it. There are friction points and stuff like that, but I think that would have helped us kind of weather some of the unexpected things that come up in connection with retirement that you weren't expecting. And so that's one of the things that I wish I had started earlier. But I think that Caroline was under the assumption that I was going to keep working because she thought, with some justification, that my identity was wrapped up in the job. And so he's never gonna want to do that because that's his reason for being. And so when it was like, well, I'm not really going to do this all, it was like, what? And so
You wrecked your plans.
yeah. So that's one thing I think I would have wished I had started earlier.
Okay. Questions from the audience? I should have told you in the beginning I'd be asking you questions. Yes.
Just talking about unexpected things that came up. What was unexpected?
One of the things that was unexpected was the amount of anxiousness and trepidation that my kids had about what it was going to do if Dad was home all the time. And it was still, they were more worried about it than Caroline was. And because they knew me, and well, they thought they knew me, and there were times when they were growing up that I wasn't around very much. And so I think that anxiety from my kids was transferred to both Caroline and to me. And your kids, you raised them. And so you look at them looking at you going, well, I wonder how this is going. Right? And so one of the things that, in terms of maybe planning a little bit better, I would say, if you have that kind of relationship, include your kids in it so that they are reassured that there are two parents who kind of were going like this, and now they're like this, and nothing bad's going to happen. And so, but that was unexpected because I hadn't thought that my kids would be so impacted by it or felt threatened by it. And so that's one thing that, and two of my kids are here. I mean, one's in San Francisco, one's in Oakland. One's a lawyer, so she was even more worried because she knew, and so it was just like, okay. So that was an unexpected thing.
I could resonate with that because I've got two kids who are, I could call them boomerang. They're both living with me because they both finished college. They're both working, but they're not at a place to just move out and rent a place and live on their own. So yeah, that's been related tensions.
You're home, they're home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interacting with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, my kids were worried about, like, does this mean we can't go on vacation anymore because you don't make money? It's like, well, I can go on vacation, but I don't know about you. Other questions? Yeah.
I mean, so it's not scary to retire.
Oh, it's
Is that what you're saying?
completely
Because right now,
frightening.
I know it's going to happen to me sometime in the future, right? And looking forward, to me, it seems like it's kind of scary, just like what Ned said. Your work is your identity.
Yeah.
Not to get up and do what you're supposed to be doing. It's, what am I if I'm not doing that kind of idea? But I do like what Alan is doing, is that he's continued to work a little bit. And I wish I could blend Alan and Ned together, because you're having fun and picking up an instrument. I'd like to pick up my bass again sometime in the future. But looking into the future, I'm kind of a little bit scared, about retiring. Because what am I going to do? Will I feel the same thing as I'm doing right now? The importance of what I'm doing, into the community, that kind of stuff. But you guys sound like it's okay.
Well, we're years down the line now.
I'm sorry.
We're years down the line. It is a huge transition.
Yeah,
It's probably the biggest one you're going to encounter for the rest of your life. And you have to figure out what is the rest of your life. Because you have a lot of years ahead of you, most likely. And you want to be productive, you want to be valued, you want to not just vacuum, you know, you want to do something that means something to yourself. And so it's huge, yeah, and it is really frightening. There are moments where you just think, Jesus, what did I do? You know? Yeah. Any other questions?
I could agree with you that, yeah, it would be scary to everybody because it is a change, and most of us don't like change. But, you know, as I mentioned, I feel more comfortable now that next year I hit 65. Like I said, I have the option to keep it going, and frankly, I enjoy it, so I probably would keep it going. But I also don't feel so, you know, tightly glomming onto that, such that I feel compelled to do that. I mean, I feel like I could let it go. Because there's other things going on in my life now that I thought, I kind of enjoy this stuff too, traveling or spending more time with my wife and the kids and that sort of thing. Yeah, it really is up to you, and I think that's the approach of just thinking about it, like, what are the possibilities versus what am I losing, would be the suggestion I'd have on how to think about it.
You don't realize how tightly wound you are when you're working. You know, you are just gotta get up, gotta get done, gotta do this, gotta do that.
Yeah.
And suddenly getting up in the morning and saying, okay, so I've got my exercise class at 9, and then maybe I'll meet someone for lunch. It takes a while to learn to relax, particularly like most of us, you know, are fairly hard-driving Asians, and you know, for most of us, we've always kept our nose to the grindstone because we had to, because it was expected of us, because it was, for most instances, it was our culture and our parents. It's interesting to learn that you can breathe, but it takes a while.
Yeah, one of the things as a litigator that you kind of take for granted is that half your schedule is controlled by opposing counsel. And to be rid of that is quite wonderful. You know, there are maybe other things that control it, but you know, it's not like, why did you sit those depositions then? Because it just wrecks everything. And so those kinds of influences that you just take as normal part of practice because that's the way it is. But when all of a sudden that's lifted from you and you start to realize that, I'm either a total control freak now because I control my entire calendar and no one else has any say-so on it, or you look at it the other way, it's like, it's freedom. It's just, you can do things at a pace that is more suitable to you, and I think everyone here will discover that for me, my pace has not slowed down very much. I mean, I don't sleep in. I do the same things. My schedule, my body clock and everything is still the same. You know, I get up really early. I just do. And so those kinds of things. But then the advantage is now it just gives you more time to do the things you want. That's a great thing.
So as a litigator, maybe you measured your time and the cadence of your life in terms of accomplishments. You know, how well a deposition went, or whether you thought, what sort of verdict you thought. Do you feel the need to measure your retirement life in terms of milestones and goals and accomplishments?
I don't know. I think I measure it more now by happiness and satisfaction that I get out of just doing certain things, as opposed to a good verdict or a good result. So it's not, the result is a different result as opposed to, like I said, a good deposition or a trial win or something like that. I measure it more like, did I derive a lot of satisfaction out of it? Or when I'm playing the piano, damn it, I actually played that thing. So it's those kinds of things. And yes, I mean, I am naturally goal-oriented because I'm competitive, and which is why I became a litigator. But I think I try to measure the satisfaction in different ways now. I don't know if that answers the answer, but I think it's the process part of it, I think, is kind of always there. And it's just, it appealed to my nature already, the litigation process, so that's why I gravitated towards it.
Anything else to add, panelists? Oh, question,
Well,
yes.
question. To the litigators on the panel, did you ever weigh the option of trying to work part-time as a litigator?
No, because I worked in a government office, and so that wasn't an option. And frankly, I was pretty burnt out at the end of my practice.
I did a lot during that kind of transition period. My first thought was, could I replicate my practice somewhere else? And that was a dumb question, because if I wanted my same practice, I'd just stay here and just keep going, because I had the opportunity and the ability to do that. And then it was like, okay, well, if I wanted to change the contours of my practice, what would I change it to? And what is it that I really like to do in the whole process, the litigation process, from beginning to end? And based on the way I was trained, I mean, I started off as an insurance defense lawyer. So I tried fender benders and product liability cases and stuff like that. So I learned how to try cases. And so what I liked to do was to try jury trials. But, what kind of practice could I go into right now that would afford me that kind of opportunity? Because I think those kinds of shops, they still exist, but I mean, they just don't get out to trial because they can't. I mean, the courts won't let them because they just can't get out. So I explored a bunch of options about what I thought would satisfy me in terms of continuing to be a litigator. But I had turned into that damn thing called a big case litigator. And so, and it was hard enough just to get to trial in those kinds of cases. And so I just couldn't figure out a way to do it. And I actually talked with people who were kind of in the same situation. I talked with small firms, how do you do this? What would it be like? And it just, none of it seemed to me it was going to work out. And so it just, at the end of it, I thought, I just have to kind of slowly slide out of this, offload my cases, make sure everyone's happy, and set up as best that I could set them up to continue on with the cases and the clients, and then just out.
I'm not sure, opinion that I'm not sure it's possible to really practice part-time as a litigator unless you're carrying someone else's bag. You can jump in and do some depositions on someone else's case, or you can, do a lot of brief writing and stuff like that. But if you still want to be in charge of your caseload, and I think that would be your desire, then you might take fewer cases, so there may be a little bit more downtime. But when you're trying to manage a significant case, there's no escaping that the other side is going to try and push back and make your life miserable.
So Terry and Ned, I think you both mentioned resources that were made available to you by the firm or the city. For those in the audience who maybe don't have a pension or just don't have resources sort of presented to them, can you share what you found helpful, or maybe what you've heard are helpful resources for retirement planning?
I had a financial advisor, because I've had different jobs, and so I've sort of had this, sort of weird financial background. So I had a financial advisor, and he and I went over what my economic situation would be. And I think it's really good, if any of you know someone, to have a third party look at where you are, and also to look at what some of your goals are. I mean, all these articles say, you only need 65% of your income when you are working. that's frankly false if you want to do things like Ned and I do, like travel to some interesting places or take care of some home renovations that you probably should have, taken care of a long time ago. So you need someone to help you think through what your immediate goals are and what your long-term goals are. And there are any number of articles that say you actually spend more money the first 2 or 3 years out. Now, when you're 80 and slowing down, maybe you don't need as much money. But the first few years, I think, were fairly expensive for me because I was doing things like some home renovations and taking some glamorous trips. So the bottom line, to answer your question, is it's really good to have a third-party look at what you're doing and what you want to do.
I'm fortunate in another way. I sleep next to my financial advisor because she ran our household during the decades when I was not there. And in doing that, one of the things that Caroline did was she developed quite a good financial sense. And it was through her that she was able to independently kind of look at our financial picture and seek the professional advice that she thought would be worthwhile to get to help us. At the same time, I was lucky enough to be able to take advantage of the resources that my firm offered in terms of the private banking and all this other kind of garbage that comes along with it. I was able to work at it from that end. And then we were able to kind of compare notes and kind of figure out which way to go from there. But through Caroline and through the firm, we both got outside advice about kind of where you should be, what are your goals, what do you want to wind up doing and stuff like that. And it gave us, at least from a financial standpoint, a pretty good idea about where we were going to wind up and how to, as best you can in these times, safeguard kind of the assets that you have and do it in a considered, planned way. But again, yes, we did have, she got her own resources brought in and I brought to bear the ones that the firm made available to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Financial planning. Do it early. Visit your planner often. Have your goals outlined and a budget. And they'll tell you how long that money will last based on how you're spending. And if it runs out early, then you have to figure out plan B or change your budget. Yeah.
Hey, Miriam. Just wanted to add on. Actually, Anthony, who's on our the co-chair, he's actually a financial advisor, but he's too modest to say anything.
I didn't pay him to say that, guys.
He's the co-chair for ABBA on the Civil Rights Committee.
And your advice?
I think you hit the nail on the head. Basically, there's 3 key factors to determine retirement age, and that's going to be what you save now, what you spend in retirement, and then your return on investment. If you got those 3 variables down, you can solve for your retirement age with the folks who haven't retired yet, or you could decrease your retirement age by shifting the other variables, like increasing savings or decreasing your retirement expenses. There are always unknown variables in the future, so it's always good to have a buffer. And I also agree that 65% of your current spending is probably a little bit light, in that in the first few years of retirement. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm obviously not retired right now, but every day is a Saturday, right? For the first 2 years.
So 65 is not the right number. What's the right number?
It depends on those 3 variables.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I'd add to all that is that I think for us as lawyers, we don't have to live as tyrannized as folks who have a situation where you don't necessarily have a job that can keep going. If you want to, I think
Go back to work.
I think virtually all of us with our attorney license can go out there and do something that's going to generate revenue, even if you leave your main job or firm or whatever it is. So I think we have the luxury of having something that enables you to well, I'll say it again, as long as you remain competent, you should be able to, generate revenue for yourself if your retirement funds really turn out to be, not as much as you need to sustain yourself going forward. So,
True.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I do is I am thankful every day that I'm sitting here facing options, that I'm not on disability, that I'm not trying to stretch a limited income over medication, that I'm able to donate to the groups I want to do and give gifts to the persons I love, because we're lawyers, and all of us here have been lucky in the options that have faced us, and so we have financial security, and I think that's a lot.
Yeah.
And we have our health. I mean, yeah, no.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that you guys are attending this panel, I think, is because you may or may not want to, wind down either quickly or slowly from your current positions, but you've got a lot of energy, and you've got a lot of competence, and you've got a lot of interests, and just be lucky that you're bringing that to what do I want to do in retirement, because not everybody has these options.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Well, we'll wrap it up here then. I will leave out a tablet. If you have any suggestions on other programs you'd like to see us do, please write it down. There's still a lot of food and drink. Enjoy yourself.
Can I also make
Network.
one